Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? I got a lot of flack for my attack bonus video, so I want to kind of defend that a little bit and just talk about why it's not so bad. So I'm gonna put up, hopefully I can put up some graphs showing you the difference between first edition and my own edition. One of the things that I did with first edition way back in 1983 was when Dragon number 80 came out. There was an article by Len Lakofka, and what he did was he took saving throws and THAC0 or attack bonus, and he changed it just a little bit, because what would happen a lot of times is, with the exception of the fighter who went up every 2 levels by 2, or there was an optional rule right in the DM guide to have him go up by one attack bonus every level, all the rest of the classes kind of went up really wonky. Like you had a thief that might in 4 levels go up by 2, which made no sense. Why in the world wouldn't you have him go up by 1 after 2 levels and by another 1 after the other 2 levels? And there were other really wonky things where, like, say somebody like a magic user might go up by 3 after 5 levels. And why in the world wouldn't you let him say go up by 2 after 2 levels and another 1 after, or 1 after 2 levels and another 1 after another 2 levels and then 1 after the final level? And that seemed a little bit fair, and ditto for saving throws. One of the things about the thieves or rogues or specialists or whatever you want to call them in my particular game is they're not necessarily going to be the classic thieves. In other words, they're not going to raise by all the various things that you think of a thief raising of, like, automatically. They're going to have to pick and choose. And one of the things they're going to pick and choose is whether or not they're going to excel in things like stealth and sneak attack and assassination, because I added that and all that sort of thing. But there are some advantages to ones that do. First of all, anybody that gets some kind of sneak attack in, which would be if you surprise somebody, you attack them from behind, they're just not aware of you, they get a +2 to hit. And of course, the person doesn't get to use their dexterity modifier or their shield. However, thief, when they've got 20 pips to put in this whole sneak attack thing, and for every 4 pips they put into it, they gain another, either D6 of damage or double damage, triple damage, etc. However, with the first 2 pips they put into this thing, I give them another +1 to their sneak attack, so now they got +3. And when they have all 4 put in, then they automatically get a +2, which would give them +4 for sneak attack. The other thing I do for sneak attack is, say they put in like 7 pips at this point, so they're at double damage at this point. However, they've got these other 3 pips in there, so I give them a 3 in 4 chance of being actually able to do triple damage. So it's a little wonky, but it's a little fair, because they've already put these pips in. Maybe they couldn't afford to put all of them in. There's some other things that they can do besides that whole no dex, no shield thing. So they're pretty powerful when they do that. One of the things I forgot to talk about in my weapons series, but I talked about just in a comment, was that when you're using any kind of missile weapon, bow, sling, crossbow, whatever, I stole the Lamentations of the Flame Princess rule, where if you spend an entire round just aiming, then you get another +4 to hit. So if you got this thief that's hiding and nobody knows he's there, well, now this guy's got +8 to hit the other person. So that's pretty powerful. I'm just going to go over like what the attack bonuses were in first edition. And by the way, to somebody that mentioned this before, you have to remember that in first edition, both thieves and magic users started out with -1 attack bonus. They had a THAC0 of 21. When Len Lakofka did the revamp of this, he gave starting out magic users a -2, but it all kind of worked out, overall. So I got to give you the bonuses that these people had based on XP. I try to do it by XP in my little Excel graph, but it turns out it was just doing it by number of entries. But first off, at the first entry, fighters start out with an attack bonus of 0, clerics 0, magic users -2, and thieves -1. The next entry, fighters would get an attack bonus of +1, clerics would still get 0, magic users -2, and thieves -1. Next entry, fighters and clerics both got an attack bonus of 1. Magic users now had a -1, Thieves still had 0. Or they had 0 finally. The next one, fighters would get an attack bonus of 2, clerics 1, magic users -1, and thieves still 0. They're kind of not doing so good. The next one, it would be fighters 2, clerics 2. So the cleric was right there with the fighter. Magic users -1, thieves still 0. Next one, fighters would get an attack bonus of 3, clerics 2, magic users 0, and the thieves would finally go up to 2, so it would be equal with a cleric. Next one, fighters would get a +5, clerics a 3, magic users a 1 now, and thieves 2. So clerics are staying closer and closer to fighters, because in fact the next one, fighters got a 5, clerics got a 4, magic users got a 1, and thieves, well, they still had 2. By the time fighters got an attack bonus by XP of 6, clerics had a 4, so only 2 behind, magic users had 1, thieves finally got a 3. Next, fighters would have a 6, clerics would have a 4, magic users would have a 2, and thieves would also have a 4, so they'd finally catch up to the cleric. Next one, fighters would get a 7, clerics would get a 4, magic users 2, and thieves a 4. Very next one, fighters would get a 7, clerics 4, magic users 2, and thieves would get a 5, so they actually jumped ahead of the cleric for a little while. Next, fighters would get an 8, the clerics would get a 5, magic users a 3, and thieves 5. After that, fighters would get an 8, clerics 5, magic users 4, so they're really right there with the cleric, and thieves 5. Next one, fighters would get an 8, clerics would get a 6, so still only 2 behind the fighter, magic users 4, and thieves 5. After that, fighters would get a +9, clerics would get a 6, magic users 4, and thieves would finally get a 6. By the time fighters got +10, clerics got +6, magic users 4, and thieves 6. So now that fighters are kind of like moving ahead of the pack. Finally, at what would be like 10th level or 11th level. After that, fighters got a +10, clerics +7, magic users 4, and thieves 6. By the time fighters got a +11, clerics would have a +7, magic users +5, and thieves 6. So magic users right behind the thief. And next, fighters would get a +12, clerics would get an 8, magic users a 6, and thieves 7. After that, and first edition, then they would get fighters would get a 13, clerics 9, magic users 6, and thieves an 8. Next, fighters would get a 13, clerics 9, magic users a 6, and thieves 8 again. I may have screwed up with that. Next, fighters would get a +14, clerics would get a +10, magic users a +6, and thieves 8. Next would be fighters would get a 14, clerics 10, magic users 6, and a thief would get +9, so they're getting closer to the cleric. Fighters next would get a +15, clerics 10, so fighters are 5 ahead of them. Magic users 6, and thieves +9. After that, fighters would get a +15, clerics 11, magic users +7, and thieves +9. Fighters would top out at +16. Clerics would get an 11, magic users 7, and thieves 10. After that, fighters would still get 16, clerics would get up to 12, magic users 7, and thieves 10. And then fighters would stay at 16, clerics 12, magic users 8, and thieves 10. So magic users are right behind the thief for the most part. Everybody just kind of went up really high in their attack bonus, and I just never thought that really gave the fighter a chance to shine. Now in my own version, it's a little bit different. They start out with fighters at +1, clerics 0, thieves 0, magic users -1. I may mess with a magic user because I kind of gimped him a little bit. Next level, or XP level, fighters will get a +1, clerics will get +1, so they're right there, thieves 0, magic users -1. By the time fighters got +2, clerics get +1, thieves 0, magic users -1. Then fighters get +2, clerics +1, thieves +1, so they're right there, magic users -1. When fighters got a +3, clerics and thieves were both at +1, magic users still at -1. Then fighters get +3, clerics will get a +2, so they're not that far away from them. Even in my revised system, Thieves +1, magic users -1. By the time fighters got +4, clerics would get +2. Thieves are still stuck for a moment at +1, and magic users -1. Once again, fighters would have +4, clerics would have +2, thieves +1, and magic users finally got to 0. But this all happens in a very short period of time. By the time fighters had +4 again, clerics had +2, thieves +1, or +2 rather, and magic users 0. When fighters get +5, clerics and the thieves also have +2, magic users 0. Fighter still has +5, clerics go up to +3, thieves +2, magic users 0. And I like the idea of the cleric being a holy warrior, so he advances a little bit faster. And remember, thieves can do all these other nifty things, and they're not always Indiana Jones type people. Let's see. So then I have fighters at +5, clerics at +3, thieves +2, magic users 0. And by this time, fighters are +6. Fighters +6, clerics +3, thieves +3, magic users 0. And it was very common for a cleric or a thief to be three behind a fighter at times. When fighters have +7, clerics have +3, thieves have +3, magic users 0. Then fighters have +7, clerics have +4, thieves have +3, magic users 0. Not very different than what first edition would do it around that time. Then fighters have +7, clerics have +4, thieves have +3, and magic users finally get up to +1. When fighters have +8, clerics and thieves both have +4, and magic users have a +1. When fighters get to +9, clerics and thieves are still at +4, magic users still at +1. Then at +9 for a fighter, clerics get a +5, thieves still have a +4, magic users +1. But then when fighters get to +10, clerics and thieves both have +5, so they're half behind them. Magic users have +1. When fighters have a +11, clerics have +6, thieves have +6, and magic users +2. When fighters get to +12, clerics and thieves still have a +6, magic users +2. When fighters have a +12, clerics have +7, thieves have +6, magic users +2. Later on, when fighters have the +12, clerics and thieves are both +7, magic users still +2. When the fighter gets to 13, clerics and thieves are still at +7, magic users +2. Then at one point, the same stats, fighters 13, clerics and thieves 7, magic users get up to +3. Hooray for them. After that, fighters are still only +13, clerics and thieves are at +8, and magic users are at +3. When fighters get up to +14, clerics and thieves are now at +8. They've kind of maxed out, and magic users are at +3. When the fighter's at +15, clerics and thieves are still at +8, magic users are +3. When the fighter gets to 16, clerics and thieves are now at +8 still, magic users +3. And finally, when fighters are still at 16, clerics and thieves are at the +8, so they're half as good as a fighter. Magic users now get +4. And of course, it's not always assumed that, a fighter's going to have a great strength and all these other things that's going to make them really, really fantastic. Because, the fighter that I'm playing right now, my old henchman, he had a strength of 12, which gave him no melee bonus whatsoever. He had a 13 dexterity, and the only thing that was good about him is he had an 18 con, which kept him a little bit alive. When we were able to do this really funky magical thing with an artifact, he actually had his strength increased to by 1, so now he's got a 13 strength, which is still not that great for a fighter. And more importantly, any scores he had under 10 were brought up to 10. Because he had a 5 wisdom and I think a 7 intelligence, so that helped him out quite a bit. So hopefully I'll be able to throw up some graphs here to show you what I'm talking about as well. But it's just not as bad as you think it is. And once again, I'm not playing 3rd edition, so a lot of the comments were kind of 3rd edition based. I'm not playing 4th edition. I'm not playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I'm playing an amalgam of 1st edition and basic. And so, a lot of what I do is based on that whole motif.